It's been nearly 20 years since JonBenet Ramsey was found dead in the basement of her family's home in Boulder. It was Christmas Day, 1996. We know what you may be thinking. You've heard it all. What more could there possibly be to learn about this child's death? You will not see what we're telling you tonight in the recent specials on TV or books in the true crime section of the bookstore. 9 Months Ago investigator Kevin Vaughan, along with the Boulder Daily Camera, have this exclusive and in-depth report that shows the DNA investigators have been relying on may not be the killer's DNA after all.
It's a murder with two competing theories. JonBenet Ramsey was either killed on Christmas night 1996 by someone in her family, or she was killed by an intruder. For more than a decade, those theories played out in the tabloids, on talk radio, even inside the investigation. Then on July 9, 2008,
attorney says new DNA evidence in the murder of JonBenet Ramsey.
Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey fully embraced the intruder theory.
Clears her family of any involvement in her death.
That just baffled my mind.
Shocking fellow prosecutors.
I wouldn't have done it because I don't think that's the role of the district attorney.
Her successor.
I was stunned. I was also appalled.
And even the Colorado governor, who assembled a task force to look into the case.
I couldn't see any reason based on what she said for her to do so. Had never seen anything like that in the past from any other prosecutor, and just couldn't believe she chose to do that.
Lacey's decision was based on DNA she said was conclusive. DNA she said JonBenet's killer left behind on her panties and long johns. DNA that would crack the case if it could just be identified or matched. But the actual DNA test results Mary Lacey used to clear the Ramseys, obtained exclusively by 9 News and the Boulder Daily Camera, tell a very different story.
So I was always surprised at what she did, and now I'm deeply concerned.
It's the latest controversy in a case full of problems. A bungled crime scene, infighting among investigators and prosecutors.
First of all, many of you know that last week,
a decision by former District Attorney Alex Hunter to drop charges authorized by a grand jury against John and Patsy Ramsey. Mary Lacey succeeded Hunter in 2001 with a reputation as a strong supporter of the intruder theory. When she issued her exoneration letter and apologized to the Ramseys, she created the impression that if someone could just identify the person whose DNA profile had been found, the case would be solved.
That we now have pretty irrefutable DNA evidence according to the DA's office, and that's the most significant thing to me, and certainly we are grateful that they acknowledged that we, based on that, certainly could not have been involved.
So we had D8, D21.
9 Wants to Know and the Daily Camera took those same lab results to forensic experts.
Yeah.
The first time that data had ever been independently evaluated. And those experts agreed. The DNA results don't come close to proving that an intruder killed JonBenet.
It's certainly possible that an intruder was responsible for the murder, but I don't think that the DNA evidence proves it.
The only way I can describe this evidence is uninformative. It really is, it's not dispositive of the presence of a perpetrator. There is foreign DNA, but that foreign DNA can easily be accounted for by a number of innocent mechanisms.
Male DNA was originally identified in JonBenet's underwear during testing in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Lacey ordered new tests in 2007 and 2008 on JonBenet's long johns and nightgown. It's those tests that led Lacey to exonerate the Ramseys.
I can tell you in my experience,
a decision that confounded Troy Ide, a former U.S. attorney who was on the Ramsey task force appointed by Governor Owens.
There's a real danger whenever you say, okay, we've looked at this and we've categorically determined something.
The experts who reviewed the DNA test data for 9 News and the Daily Camera questioned Lacey's exoneration on multiple fronts. First, the DNA profile Lacey said belonged to the killer may not be the profile of a single person.
There is a reasonable chance that what has been attributed to a single individual actually represents DNA from multiple individuals that has been sort of hobbled together into a single profile.
Well, it's a rather obvious point, but I mean, if you're looking for somebody who doesn't exist because it's actually several people, it's a problem.
And as for the DNA on the long johns, heralded by Lacey as conclusive, our experts believe those two spots are mixtures of genetic material from more than two people.
It looks and appears to me to be at least 3 individuals. And so that there's a mixture here that's not just a single profile.
Which is precisely what Mary Lacey knew before she exonerated the Ramseys. This report, obtained by 9 News and the Daily Camera, went to Lacey's office 3 months before she cleared the family. Of the 2 spots on JonBenet's long johns, the report says it's likely more than 2 people contributed to the mixtures. And after eliminating JonBenet's DNA, the remaining DNA contribution should not be considered a single source profile.
She knew, based on your investigation, that this DNA wasn't necessarily from one person, and that it in fact was potentially accumulated DNA. She knew it at the time, and why she used this evidence to clear the Ramsey family then, a clearance that has continued because it's on the public record through today, is something I can't explain, and she should explain.
Mary Lacey has never talked about her decision to exonerate the Ramseys, and she's not talking now. We tried calling, emailing, sending her a letter, even visiting her home. So far, she has not responded. One person who is talking is Lynn Wood, John Ramsey's attorney. He tells us he has absolute and total confidence in Mary Lacey's integrity, and he firmly believes this is a case that will be solved using DNA. We have a longer statement from Lynn Wood available at 9news.com.
And Kevin, we want to make sure that people understand this doesn't mean in any way that investigators can rule out the idea that an intruder killed JonBenet.
That's exactly what the Daily Camera's Charlie Brennan and I found, that you can't rule it in, you can't rule it out, and just like you can't rule in or out any particular suspect.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to talk more about the testing here as we continue our coverage of this.
Tomorrow
story.
night we'll have more on the testing and on what our experts think might have led Lacey's office to call off additional testing in 2008.
Why she went in a different direction than what they're thinking. All right, Kevin, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. You can find the entire story on 9news.com, dailycamera.com, and in tomorrow morning's paper.